They grounded her
knew this would
before she
happen.
ever left the
I had no
tarmac,
choice. We
not
had to
because her
ground you.
record said
now he's
anything but
dead.
perfect, but because the
No.
most powerful
Ground her.
man in the room
Her
looked
face
at her
is the
face
reason.
and said no. 40 hours later, their chosen pilot was scattered across a hillside. Rivals were closing in on the route, and Daniel was bleeding in
They
a
grounded me. Their
helicopter
perfect
seat,
pilot is dead.
watching Zara
No,
fly through
just
a
get us through
storm
this.
that had no
Watch me.
right to be survived, the same woman they threw away. And she still hadn't told him whether she forgave him. The helicopter was dying. Warning lights screamed across the instrument panel in bursts of red and amber, and Zara Kim fought the controls with both hands, her knuckles white against the cyclic stick as another wall of wind slammed into the fuselage and sent them lurching sideways through the dark. Daniel grabbed the dashboard with his good hand. His left arm was pressed against his ribs, the sleeve of his jacket soaked through with something dark. Zara, talk to me. I'm busy. She yanked the collective upward and the rotors screamed in protest. Rain hammered the windshield so hard she could barely see 10 feet ahead. Lightning split the sky somewhere to the left, close enough that the thunder hit them like a physical blow. Are we going to make it? She didn't answer immediately. That was its own kind of answer. Zara. I don't know. The aircraft dropped suddenly, a stomach-dropping fall of 30 feet before she caught it, and Daniel made a sound that was half grunt, half something he was trying to suppress. She glanced at him. His face was pale in the instrument glow, jaw tight, eyes fixed on her like she was the only fixed point in the universe. Something in her chest cracked open. Hey! Her voice dropped. Still fighting the controls, still scanning the instruments, but something softer moved through her now. Hey, look at me. He looked. If we survive this, she said, I will never hide how I feel about you again. You understand me? Never. The helicopter shuddered. His mouth opened. The engine coughed once. Then silence swallowed everything. If you're new here, subscribe now. This story only gets more intense from here. 24 hours earlier. The airfield outside Incheon sat quiet in the early morning, the kind of quiet that belongs only to places where the sky is the main character. Zara walked the length of the tarmac with a coffee thermos in one hand and a pre-flight checklist in the other, moving between the small charters the way some people move through their own homes, unhurried, certain, completely at ease. She was 29 years old, half Nigerian, half Korean, and had been flying since she was 17. She had her mother's cheekbones and her father's stubbornness and a laugh that mechanics 2 hangars over could identify by sound alone. She was also, by every measurable standard, the best pilot on the roster. She didn't need anyone to tell her that. She already knew. What she didn't know, as she ducked under the nose of a Cessna to check the landing gear, was that a black SUV had just pulled through the front gate. She heard the doors. She didn't look up. Footsteps crossed the tarmac. She felt them before she heard them, a particular quality of deliberate movement, like someone used to having rooms adjust around them. Miss Kim. She straightened. He was tall, Korean, dressed in a jacket that was expensive in the way that tries not to look expensive. Mid-30s. Clean jaw. Eyes that were doing the thing eyes do when they're pretending to be relaxed and not quite managing it. That's me, she said. I'm Daniel Yoon. He extended his hand. I have a charter request. Your manager said you'd be the one to talk to. She looked at his hand, then shook it. What kind of charter? Supply run. Remote coordinates, night flight, time-sensitive cargo. How time-sensitive? Very. She studied him for a moment. He didn't look away, which she noted. Most people looked away. Come inside. I'll get the details. They sat across from each other at the small table in the operations office, which smelled like burnt coffee and aviation maps. He slid a folder across to her. She opened it and read without speaking. The coordinates are remote, she said finally. Yes. This says the cargo is medical equipment. It is. For people stranded after the flooding? Yes. She closed the folder and looked at him directly. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't fully categorize, not the usual entitled impatience she got from clients who thought hiring a woman was a compromise. Something more careful than that. Why didn't you go through the regional emergency services? She asked. A beat of silence. It's complicated. That's not an answer. No, he agreed. It isn't. He leaned forward slightly. My family has interests in the cargo route. There are reasons we'd prefer a private arrangement. But the people who need that equipment are real, Ms. Kim. They've been waiting 3 days. She turned her coffee cup slowly in her hands. You're not telling me everything. Not yet. That's a problem. I know. And then, in a tone that surprised her, you have every reason to say no. I'd understand. She didn't say no. She didn't say yes either. She said, come back at noon. I'll have a decision. He stood, buttoned his jacket, picked up nothing because he'd brought nothing. At the door he paused. For what it's worth, he said, without turning around, I looked up your record before coming here. You've landed in conditions that grounded everyone else. Twice. A pause. You're exactly who we need. He left. Zara stared at the door for a long moment. Then she picked up her coffee and took a slow sip. She was already deciding to say yes. She just hadn't admitted it to herself yet. He came back at noon. She said yes. They spent 3 hours going over the flight plan, the weather windows, the cargo manifest. He was precise and prepared and asked better questions than most clients, which told her he wasn't entirely who he was presenting himself to be. She filed it away. What she didn't file away, because there was no practical place to put it, was the way the afternoon light came through the dusty office window and landed across his face while he was reading coordinates, and the way he looked up at exactly the wrong moment and caught her looking, and neither of them said anything for a full second before she pointed back at the map. Weather window is here, she said. We leave at 2200. That's non-negotiable. Understood, he said. His voice was even. His eyes were not. What Zara didn't know, because she was reviewing the flight plan, was that 60 kilometers away, in a building with tinted windows and very good security, Daniel was standing in front of a long table of men who wore their authority like second skin. His uncle sat at the head. Namgil Yoon. 70 years old, built like something that had survived several attempts to knock it down. The pilot, Namgil said. He had a way of saying simple words that made them sound like verdicts. Tell me about the pilot. Best available, Daniel said. Proven record. She's handled worse routes. She. Namgil let the word sit there. Yes. The man to Namgil's left, Byung-soo, leaned forward. Does she know the full nature of the cargo? She knows what she needs to know. That's not an answer. She's a professional, Daniel said, and something in his tone had gone careful now measured. She can handle this. Namgil was quiet for a long moment. She doesn't belong here, Daniel. This isn't a humanitarian milk run. This is a Yoon operation. The people involved, the stakes, the fallout if something goes wrong, it requires someone who understands what's at risk. Someone who belongs in this world. Daniel said nothing. She doesn't, Namgil said simply. Find someone else. Daniel opened his mouth. Closed it. Find someone else, his uncle repeated. Zara was at the fuel depot, running final checks, when she heard the voices near the east hangar. She wasn't trying to listen. The wind carried them. Already briefed, you can't pull her now. Watch me. She went still. There's another team available. Choi's crew. They've done runs like this. Choi's crew almost lost a shipment in March. That's handled. This is decided. Tell the woman the contract is cancelled. She walked away before she heard more. She walked slowly and steadily and didn't change her pace and didn't let her face do anything at all until she was inside the storage locker next to the hangar, and then she pressed her back against the cold metal shelving and breathed. She'd heard it before. In different rooms, different languages, different polite ways of saying the same thing. You don't belong here. She was used to it. She'd built her entire career as a series of rooms she'd walked into anyway, smiling, excellent, undeniable. She was still used to it. It still felt like a hand around her throat. She started pulling her flight bag down from the shelf. Daniel found her. She was zipping the bag closed. She didn't look up when he came in. Zara. Contracts cancelled, she said. I heard. I didn't make that call. But you didn't stop it. Silence. She finally looked at him. His expression was doing something complicated, guilt and something rawer underneath it, something that looked like it was trying to get out from behind his composure and not quite succeeding. You were in that room, she said. Yes. And you said nothing. He stopped. Started again. It's not simple. My family. Don't. Her voice was quiet and even, and somehow that made it hit harder. Don't explain your family to me. I've met your family before. Different faces, same room. She picked up the bag. You knew I was good. You said so yourself. And when someone in that room decided my face didn't fit, you stayed quiet. She moved toward the door. That's all I need to know. He stepped into her path. Not blocking her, he left her room to go around, but standing close enough that she stopped. I do trust you, he said. I should have said it in there. I know that. I was wrong. That's a very easy thing to say now. Yes. He didn't argue with it. It is. She looked at him for a long moment. The hangar was dim around them, late light coming in sideways through the high windows. He was standing very still in a way that felt like it was costing him something. You almost said something, she said quietly. Not quite a question. I should have said more than almost. She shook her head once, slowly. Stepped past him. Got almost to the door. Zara. She stopped. Didn't turn. I'm sorry, he said. And she could hear that it was real. She walked out anyway. You still here? Good. Things are about to go very wrong. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Choi's crew took off at 2200. At 2247, Daniel's phone rang. He answered it and went very still. How bad, he said. The voice on the other end told him. Mechanical failure on approach. Emergency landing attempted in mountainous terrain failed. Cargo scattered across a hillside. No fatalities, but 2 crew members injured. The stranded community, the reason for the run, the people waiting, still waiting. And now there were rivals moving in, a competing family who had been watching the route, who had been waiting for exactly this kind of opening. Daniel stood at the window for a long time after he hung up. Then he put on his jacket and went to find her. She was at the airport. Not flying, sitting in the 24-hour cafe near the domestic terminal with a cup of tea she wasn't drinking, staring at nothing in the particular way of someone who is making a decision they don't want to make. He came through the doors at a pace that was just under running. She saw him across the room and something in her posture changed, not softening, not yet, something more like bracing. He sat down across from her. He was slightly out of breath. Choi's crew crashed, he said. No one died, but the mission failed. The people who needed that equipment still need it. And there's a rival group moving to intercept the route. She looked at him. I need you, he said. The mission needs you. And I know I have no right to ask. You don't. I know. She turned her teacup slowly. How many people? 37. Mostly elderly and children. 3 days without proper medication. The silence between them had a particular texture now. This isn't about me, he said. I need you to know that I'm not here to fix what I did. I'm here because people are going to get hurt if the right pilot isn't on this run, and you're the right pilot. He paused. But I also need you to know, he stopped. Looked at the table. Then looked at her. I need you to know that I don't care what my uncle thinks. I should have said it in that room and I didn't, and I have to live with that. But I'm saying it now. I choose you. Not just for the flight. I choose. Don't. Her voice was soft. Don't say everything right now. Okay. She was quiet for a long moment. You're bleeding, she said suddenly. He looked down. His hand, he'd cut it on something at some point and hadn't noticed. He looked back up. She had already opened her bag and was pulling out a small first aid kit with the automatic efficiency of someone who is always prepared. She took his hand without asking. She cleaned the cut without speaking. He watched her face while she worked, focused, precise, something underneath the precision that she was not quite suppressing. She pressed a bandage down. Smoothed the edge flat. Did not let go of his hand. 37 people, she said. Yes. And rivals in the air. Possibly. And weather. Yes. She finally looked up. Their faces were closer than they'd been before. Something moved between them, not spoken, not yet, but fully present. I'm not doing this for your family, she said. I know. Or for you. I know. A pause. But I am doing it, she said. He let out a breath that sounded like it had been held for a very long time. She stood, let go of his hand, slung her bag. He stood too, and she was already heading for the door, and he was already following, and then she stopped and turned, and for a single second everything was very still. She kissed him. Quick. Real. Her hand briefly against his jaw. Then she pulled back and looked at him steadily. Don't make me regret that, she said. I won't, he said. He meant it with everything he had. They were in the air by midnight. The first hour was clean, clear skies, steady winds, Zara running the instruments with calm efficiency and Daniel in the co-pilot seat watching the dark landscape pass below them. You do this a lot? He asked. Night runs. Whenever I can get them. She made a small adjustment. Night's honest. Daytime you can pretend you're somewhere else. At night it's just you and the altimeter. Is that good? Depends what you're running from. She glanced at him sideways. What are you running from? He was quiet for a moment. My family has done things I don't agree with. A lot of things. I spent 10 years telling myself I could fix it from inside. He paused. I'm starting to think I was wrong about that. What changed? Tonight, honestly. He looked at her. Watching my uncle sit there and reduce you to a problem to be solved. You, who could fly circles around every person in that room. He shook his head. I think I've been making excuses. She said nothing for a moment. Then, the hardest rooms to leave are the ones you grew up in. Did you have one of those? Several. She adjusted altitude. I left them. Took time. Wasn't clean. She paused. But the sky's cleaner. He almost said something. The radio crackled instead. Unknown aircraft on approach vector. The voice was clipped, official, and wrong. It wasn't air traffic control. The frequency was off. The cadence was off. Zara knew immediately. They're here, she said. Rivals? Buckle up. What followed was 20 minutes that Daniel would spend the rest of his life struggling to describe to people who weren't there. She dropped altitude without warning, banking hard left to pull them below a ridge that most pilots wouldn't have threaded in daylight. The pursuing helicopter overshot, had to arc wide to find them again. Warning lights bloomed across the panel. The sabotage was revealing itself now, whatever had been done to the aircraft before takeoff. A fuel line compromised, the tail rotor throwing slightly on hard turns. She knew. She could feel it. She adapted. There's a problem with the tail, Daniel said, watching the instruments. I know. How bad? I'm managing it. Zara. I'm managing it. Her voice was utterly calm. That was the thing that hit him, not fear, not panic, a focused, iron calm that was somehow more powerful than any reassurance she could have offered. Lightning hit. Not the aircraft, close. Close enough that the static blew two instruments and for a full second the windshield was white. When the dark came back, Daniel was gripping the dashboard and Zara had not moved. You okay? She said. Are you serious right now? Are you okay? Yes. Good. Her hands moved. The aircraft steadied. The pursuing helicopter is hanging back. Storm got to them too. She checked coordinates. We're 12 minutes out. He exhaled. Daniel. Her voice had changed, still steady, but something underneath it now, the thing from the cafe, the thing she'd been holding at a careful distance. Yeah, when this is done. Yeah, we should have a long, boring conversation somewhere with no weather. He almost laughed. It came out as something rougher than a laugh. I'd like that. She brought them through the last wall of storm, and beneath them, through the breaking clouds, he could see it, a cluster of lights on a remote island coast, small and cold and very alive. There they are, she said softly. She landed in a crosswind that had no business being landed in. The wheels touched down smooth. The authorities arrived 40 minutes later. Daniel made calls he'd been building toward for months, maybe years. He gave names, he gave documents, he gave coordinates of operations that had no business existing. His uncle's name was in there. His own was too, in places. Namgil arrived in the second wave of officials, escorted and diminished in the way that powerful men are briefly diminished when the story catches up to them. He walked past Zara on the airfield. He stopped. He looked at her, the aircraft she'd landed, the people being helped onto stretchers and blankets and whatever warmth could be found, the scene that would not have existed without her. He said nothing, but the look on his face said something. She held his gaze without expression, without warmth, but also without cruelty. Then she looked away. That was enough. If this story hit different, like it, share it, and subscribe. There's more where this came from. The sun came up. It came up the way it always does at airfields, practical, unhurried, indifferent to the drama of the previous hours. Zara sat on the steps of the small operations building with a coffee that someone had made badly and she was drinking anyway. Daniel came and sat beside her. He was going to face a process. Lawyers, hearings, a family that would be simultaneously publicly disgraced and privately furious. It was going to take time, and it was going to take something from him that he couldn't yet calculate. He sat down anyway. "How's the hand?" she asked. He looked at the bandage she'd put on. Still attached. Good. They sat with the morning for a moment. Somewhere down the field, a ground crew was moving a charter around. Ordinary morning. Ordinary sky. "I meant what I said," he told her. "In the helicopter." "Which part?" "All of it. But especially," he paused. "I choose you. I want to be clear about that. Not in a storm, not under pressure. I mean it in daylight." She looked at him sideways. "Meeting you changed my life," he said. "That's not a line. I'm aware it sounds like one. But you flew through something last night that would have broken most people, and you did it because 37 strangers needed you to, and I sat next to you the whole time and thought." He stopped. Started again. "I thought, this is what it looks like when someone is actually free." She was quiet for a long moment. "I'm not free yet," she said. "Not completely." She turned her coffee cup in her hands. "But I'm getting there." He nodded. She stood, looked at the sky. The light was gold and clean and going on forever in every direction. She took a slow breath. "There's a morning charter in an hour," she said. "Scenic run. No cargo, no rivals, no storms." "Sounds boring." "Extremely." She looked at him. "You want to come?" Something in his expression shifted relief and something lighter than relief, something that might eventually turn into joy if it was given enough time and enough clear air. "Yeah," he said. "I really do." She walked toward the aircraft. The morning light caught her stride, her certainty, the way she moved through the world like she had already decided she belonged in it. She had decided. That was the thing nobody had been able to take from her, no matter which room, no matter which voice. She climbed in. She started the engine. She flew. Sometimes love gives us the courage to fly where we were never welcomed. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, drop a comment telling me your favorite moment, and like the video. It genuinely helps more than you know. See you in the next one.